Anyway, I saw that you have an appointment in your schedule in an hour. Aren't you going to be late? I'm already waiting for J-Hope to pick me up. He was fulfilling one of my instructions in the morning. Fine. Then I'll see you at lunch. I'll be waiting. I wish you luck at the meeting. Thank you, dear, and have a nice day, too. Taehyung smiles discreetly, wishing it absolutely sincerely. And they end the call. Looking at his watch, the man mentally agrees with his wife, he better hurry. Luckily, J-Hope had just texted him that he's on his way. Taehyung decides to take advantage of the remaining time and picks up a notebook from the coffee table in the living room. Good morning, baby boy. I have work meetings and had to leave, so I apologize for you waking up alone. Please make yourself at home. If anything happens, you can always text me, but it's better not to call. I'm not sure I can answer the phone. If it's urgent or you need anything, you can contact J-Hope. I'll leave his phone number on the back of the sheet. Eat the breakfast and rest well today, and I'll see you in the evening, Bo. Kim Taehyung, carefully cutting out a sheet of paper from a thick notebook with a stationery knife. He folds it in half, leaves his bodyguard's number on the back at the bottom of the sheet, as promised, and also writes for Jungkook a little larger and in the middle, so that the boy will definitely draw his attention to the note. And like a clockwork, a message arrives on the phone from the guard that he's already waiting for him at the parking lot. Taking a deep breath, Taehyung rises to his feet and comes into the bedroom, silently walking to the bed and leaving the folded sheet of paper on the bedside table next to the peacefully sleeping boy. Have a nice day, Jungkook, Taehyung whispers, giving the boy another satisfied look, and leaves the bedroom as quietly as he entered. He picks up his coat, hanging it on the crook of his elbow, and calls the elevator. Jungkook stretches, feeling a strange tension in his muscles, and opens his eyes with difficulty. He sees a high ceiling in front of him, only a few moments later realizing where he fell asleep that night, until everything that happened comes to mind. Mr. Kim, he whispers hoarsely, raising himself on his elbows and looking around the room, but it is completely empty, and next to him he notices only a crumpled pillow. Jungkook rubs his eyes with his hand, yawning widely, and looks towards the window. Due to the height at which the apartment is located, he can only see the translucent fog enveloping the high-rise buildings, and the sky covered with a grey canvas. Apparently today will be even more humid and cloudy than yesterday, with December finally starting to fully show itself. When the boy turns on the other side, his gaze suddenly stumbles upon some piece of paper signed with his name. Wearily reaching for it, he yawns again before opening it, reading the man's neat handwriting. Make yourself at home? Yeah, as if it was so simple. Here, Mr. Kim apartment. All alone. Well, of course, Jungkook will have no problem feeling at home. What a bloody nonsense. He puts the note down, exhaustedly flops back onto the pillow, and closes his eyes. So it seems it was worth asking Mr. Kim for a pill yesterday. His head is pounding. This is probably why, after a few minutes, Jungkook does not notice how he falls into a deep sleep again. Yes, okay, the woman nods to her own words, holding the phone to her ear, and exits the elevator. Set up a meeting with him next week. Preferably during the first half of the day. As soon as they respond, send me all of the information immediately. Yes, that's all. She stops in the middle of the hall, listening to the assistant's response. Oh, and prepare and double-check all the documents for today's meeting. Finally hanging up the call, she looks around. The apartment is remarkably quiet, Mrs. Kim. Bodyguard standing behind her quietly calls out. She turns around, giving him a look. Where should I put it? The woman scans with her gaze several large cardboard bags in his hand, and then with a vague wave of her hand points to the archway leading to a large room. Leave it in the living room. The guy nods, walking past her, and follows the instructions, immediately returning back. Should I wait for you here? Mrs. Kim plays with her cheekbones, looking around the suspiciously empty apartment again. No. Go back into the car. Wait for me there. Yes. He nods briefly, and the next minute he's already disappearing into the elevator. Straightening her coat, with the soft click of her heels on the parquet floor, the woman first goes to the kitchen, but it is just as quiet there. She walks into the living room then, trying to notice at least something unusual, but sees only an empty coffee cup, left by none other than her husband at the moment when he was getting ready for work. I hope your boy didn't run away, she mutters to herself, leaving her purse on the sofa next to the shopping bags, and confidently walks towards the bedroom. Of course, for a second she's still struck by the thought that this boy, Jungkook, could simply take something out of the apartment and run away, but Mrs. Kim wants to trust her husband's instincts to the last, knowing that he would hardly have his eyes on anyone who is capable of such a thing. And, fortunately, her own beliefs do not fail her. Once in the room, she notices Jungkook, all curled up in a tiny ball under the blanket in the middle of the bed. Walking closer with the same proud gait, the woman stands by the bed, examining him a little more carefully. The abrasions on his face do not escape her eye. Good job, darling, she mentally notes when she sees that the wounds have been treated and sealed with bandages. She is glad that Taehyung at least took a good care of his boy. Hey, she calls quietly, not used to raising her voice anyway. Hey, Jungkook. Come on, it's time to get up. The woman's soft voice fills the room, but Jungkook seems to be sleeping too soundly. Sighing, she leans over the boy, touching his shoulder. Jungkook. Mrs. Kim frowns, and only now, looking very closely at his face, notices that his skin is covered with perspiration. Jungkook, she calls again. He frowns, quietly humming something through his sleep, and the woman, without thinking too much, touches his forehead with her palm. Great, she sighs again, straightens out, and walks out of the bedroom, taking her phone out of the pocket and taking off her coat along the way. The woman enters the kitchen, listening to the beeping in her ear, and begins to brew herself a coffee. Finally, the person on the other end picks up the phone. Doctor. Siak-jin, she smiles at the corners of her lips. Good morning, this is Mrs. Kim. Perhaps you have some time in the coming hours to visit our house? I think we need to consult a doctor. The next time Jungkook wakes up, it's only because Mrs. Kim has been trying to make him do it for the last 10 minutes without any kind of success. What? The boy frowns, trying to get up, but the woman's gentle hand touches his shoulder, laying him back down. What's going on? Mrs. Kim finally realizing who he sees in front of him. Jungkook's heart sinks into his lower abdomen, and his sagging voice trembles more than usual. It's okay, she says surprisingly softly, smiling at him from the corners of her lips. You better lie down. I woke you up only because the doctor is already coming. Doctor. The boy's eyes widen in fright, and he looks around restlessly, seeing the same bedroom in which he fell asleep. And why would I need a doctor? Mrs. Kim, you have a fever. When I arrived, you were sleeping. I saw that you were sweating, so I touched your forehead. And then I called a family doctor. No, Please don't. He shakes his head, immediately making new attempts to get up, even if a strange pain numbs his whole body. I don't need a doctor, Mrs. Kim. Please don't. Jungkook. He freezes, hearing her authoritative tone, and looks up at the woman, losing focus every now and then. Mum, please, Jungkook. The doctor is already in the elevator, so be kind. Just do what you are told. I'm trying to help. Do what you're told. It flashes through his head once again. Is it a family thing for them? Do all the Kim really like bossing Jungkook around so much? So who's next? The boy thinks. Their dog. Their cat? Whoever it is, probably even they will try to do the same. But there's no need, he tries to exclaim, and his voice only hoarses more, and Jungkook winces, feeling an unpleasant burning pain in his throat. Do you see that? Mrs. Kim arches an eyebrow and then nods at him. Go back to bed. Jungkook looks at her for a few more seconds, only with his eyes begging her to change her mind, and then the bell rings from behind the slightly open bedroom doors, signaling the arrival of the elevator. And they both hear a male voice belonging to the woman's bodyguard. Mrs. Kim. Doctor. Siak Jim is here. Mrs. Kim exhaled noisily, glancing again at Jungkook, who continues to stare at her with that look of a beaten puppy. Go back to bed. Quickly, she commands briefly, and then, clicking her heels again, she quickly leaves the bedroom. Jungkook swallows painfully, lowering his gaze, and yet lies back on the pillow. At least when he's lying down, his head doesn't hurt as much. And Mrs. Kim, smiling charmingly, greets the arriving doctor as soon as she comes out into the hall. Doctor. Siak-jin. Thank you for such an urgent visit. Oh, what are you talking about, Mrs. Kim? The man shakes the hand she extended, giving the same smile in response. Your family can call me at any time. I will come at the first opportunity. So, I take it Mr. Kim is not feeling well. This is the first assumption that the doctor makes, knowing that there is hardly anyone else Mrs. Kim would decide to take care of personally. And even after working with this family for several years now, he is still trying to get used to how much power both of the Kim have. No, not really, she smiles briefly, clasping her hands together. It's our nephew. He's staying with us at the moment. So, oh, okay, I understand. The doctor immediately nods, giving the woman's bodyguard his bag, and begins to take off his coat. Well, then let's see how I can help. Of course. Mrs. Kim smiles again, pointing his hand in the right direction. Please, follow me. The guard takes his outerwear, returning the man's bag instead, and the doctor adjusts his jacket as Mrs. Kim walks away. As soon as the woman enters the bedroom and approaches the bed, she and Jungkook meet eyes again. Don't say anything unnecessary, answer only the questions asked, she whispers briefly, and Jungkook is so frightened by her tone that he only manages to nod in agreement, and then a good-looking man of about 35, or a little older, appears in the room. Good morning, he smiles at Jungkook, and then approaches the bed, near which Mrs. Kim had prudently ordered to place a chair. My name is Siak-jin, he introduces himself, sitting down, and the boy swallows again, grimacing in pain a little. Jungkook. This is the only thing he manages to squeeze out with a distinct hoarseness that is not at all inherent in his soft voice. So, Jungkook. The man smiles at him again, but it seems to Jungkook that this smile is more professional than sincere. Of course he is to smile at him. How could it be otherwise? Tell me what's bothering you. Your aunt told me that you had a fever, right, aunt? Jungkook looks at Mrs. Kim, confused, but she just stares back at him, so he looks down and nods. Well, I guess. I dunno. The doctor is a little lost when he receives such an answer, and opens his bag. Okay, then first we'll check the exact temperature of your body. Another duty smile is given to Jungkook, and the doctor takes out a small container, and then pulls out a thermometer from there. Open your mouth, please, he asks softly, and Jungkook opens his mouth obediently. While we wait, I'll take notes, doctor. Seokjin unblocking his iPad. I'll ask you a few questions, and you just nod. Okay, Jungkook nods, showing how well he understood this request, and the man begins to type.